Sarah Davis, the lead golf instructor at Kiwa Island, aka Heaven on Earth, as I refer to it. Sarah was up in town getting herself evaluated,
Yeah.
working on her body, and she actually was about to leave. It's funny. I just kind of like ran down the hall and I was like, "Hey, wait, we should do a podcast together."
So here we are.
So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's not often that I get to have people in studio. Usually we do it via Zoom or whatever. So it's always a treat. But
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things, just as I was kind of getting some of the download from Will and some other guys, is just you have a fitness background. You've actually done TPI level 1. I'd love to just, for you to share with listeners and me, like just your golf story. Like, how did you get started in golf? And then not every golf instructor, for those of you who don't know, apparently you worked in a gym too.
I did. Yes.
Like you were committed to the fitness side of things.
Yeah.
How do we end up here?
Journey.
Yeah. How do we end up here?
So golf story's kind of different. I was a gymnast from 2 to 14. Then I started playing softball. Got pretty serious into volleyball as a middle schooler. So volleyball was my thing. I played club, high school, ended up going to play in college. And then upon college, we got a football team that the school didn't properly budget for. I was in broadcasting and I was interviewing one of our men's players on the golf team.
Yep.
And it rumor had kind of floated around campus that scholarships were going to be pulled. So of course I'm like, well, I went to a private university, which was really expensive. So I made a joke to a golfer about joining the golf team.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, the women's team, they had 5 girls that were all going to graduate at the same time. We were a Title IX university. So they needed a women's program in order to have a men's team.
Yeah.
And so he's like, so you should join the golf team. Yeah. And I'm like, do you understand? I've never played golf. So I leave and I'm like, don't even like think about the idea again. Yeah. The next day, the volleyball coach calls me and he's like, you should join the golf team. And I'm like, what? So then the next day, the golf coach calls and he's like, I'll give you your money if you want to join the team. So this is like 3 days. And I'm like, guys, I've never played golf. Does anyone understand this? Yeah. So I joined the golf team.
That's awesome.
And so I had only played golf probably 3 times, 9 holes with my parents recreationally. Didn't own golf clubs, didn't grow up at a country club, didn't know the whole lifestyle. But needless to say, I fell in love my first tournament. So my first tournament was my first time playing 18 holes.
I mean, we gotta ask, what'd you shoot?
136.
Nice.
Yes.
I mean, you broke 140.
I had 2 pars. It was pretty good. And I didn't know what I was doing at all. I had started taking lessons, so I kind of sort of knew, but I was just out there having fun. And then COVID hit, all sports shut down. So this is like a year and a half later. And we had a tournament at our home course and I won. And so that's awesome. Where it was kind of like, okay, I think God's kind of pulling on me to take this next step with golf. And I remember driving home and I was like, I have a feeling life's going to get a little different right now. And so I was really pursuing broadcasting and I actually worked as a junior golf broadcaster. And as I was doing that, I was just like, I don't want to be behind the camera. Like I was almost envious of these 13-year-olds playing golf and their parents are driving them everywhere. And I'm like, I'm sitting here filming this stuff.
And where were you doing junior golf broadcasting?
So I worked for the Hurricane Junior Golf Tour.
Okay.
And I pretty much traveled all over. I would leave Thursday. I would go cover the tournaments Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back. And when I say I did this, I edited it, I videotaped, I produced.
You did the whole 9 yards. Oh, wow.
For $0. So
nice.
Yeah,
good ROI. Good ROI. Yeah. Okay.
But that was kind of like where I was like, okay, this is not where I'm supposed to be. So I graduated I had a half a semester left, and that's when I found out about the PGA. So I got into the PGA, started at Detroit Golf Club, and life kind of evolved. I got pretty into instruction. I was living in the mountains. And then this is kind of where the whole gym story tied in was I was just surfing social media. Like I need some golf fitness stuff. Like I don't really know golf fitness stuff, and stumbled across Lifetime Performance, which is in South Florida. Worked under Ken McDonald and was super lucky that he offered me a job just as a golf coach, not so much a fitness person, and helped me understand golf fitness better. And then I became the director of golf and fitness instruction up in the mountains the following season, and then got burned out on seasonal life and was lucky enough to find Kiowa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Always golf season there.
It's always golf season. Yeah, it's a really good life down there.
So, I guess at what point did you then go get certified? You went out to TPI. You got level 1. What did that fall in the journey?
I would say it was pretty early on. I was up in the mountains, and this was when TPI was all still virtual.
Okay.
And I just knew like, yeah, golf fitness is cool, but I knew that I needed more in order to teach people. I just knew that there was more to just club path and face angle and swinging. So right away when it was fitness and TPI, so also background, I Olympic lifted in college. I've always kind of been a gym rat. And so to take the two and combine them, which also, I mean, as you guys understand, golf fitness is a different thing. It's not, it's, you still need the heavy compound lifting, but like what I just did today, there's other stuff that you need to be doing that's different than just let's
some
go
foundational
hang
things.
clean a ton of weight.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so cool to hear that you ollie lifted because I think people always ask, well, what's the best exercise I can do? And I'm like, honestly, just like power clean.
Exactly.
But they're like, what?
Really?
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, I mean, just don't catch it. You know, you can just, you don't have to go all the way down. Like, you can catch it up high.
Right.
But it's like, or even just do a pull. Like,
exactly.
Because it has the highest level of vertical production force through the ground. But sorry for all you who are not nerds in the gym, but no, that's so cool. So we can go that route too. But talk to me. You go to TPI. You obviously it's a 2-day thing. Tons of information. What from that kind of like formal golf fitness education side like really stuck out to you and was kind of impactful and that you kind of took back and started implementing?
I think that it's really eye-opening to simple movement patterns and simple golf movement patterns, like just rotating your upper body, rotating your lower body, separating things. And I mean, I can sit there and watch people hit golf balls for hours, but the second you take the club away and you ask them to do a simple movement, that's harder. And so just realizing that, especially really successful people that spend a lot of time behind a computer screen, they're not doing that stuff. So just by simply being like, when you're on your business call, do some chest rotations, like just teaching people how to move better.
Yeah, for sure.
Period. I would say was the most eye-opening thing.
Just turn your camera off on the Zoom meeting. And let her rip.
Stretch.
Yeah.
They won't judge.
So now, how long have you been down at Kiowa?
About a year and a half.
And as we were talking before, like you teaching like sun up to sundown. What are some of the common things that you see in golfers that come to you? Maybe we start here. Like when a new golfer does come to you, how do you approach that? I think that's one of my favorite questions to ask instructors when we have them on is like, tell me about your approach, your philosophy, and then also if we packaging it for everyone listening, like what they should. I always tell them like, or I'll ask you, just heads up here. Like, what should somebody listening right now look for in an instructor? So so when you have a newbie come in, like, hey, Sarah, what happens after the handshake? Then what?
Well, you start with what's a golf club? Like, this is the grip, this is the shaft, and this is the head of the club. And funny enough, people don't know that. So you start there. I think the grip is really important. Just in general, in terms of like longevity of swinging the golf club. But I would say one of the first things after like the introduction of the golf club and the grip is I start with getting the upper body rotating. And the reason being is I would say I see people that have been playing golf for 30 to 40 years that come in and they don't rotate at all. So I have a student who it pops in my brain when you ask this question. We started in October, had never held a golf club ever. And she swings it with a +3 path and the face naturally rotates. And we've mainly talked a lot about chest rotation, getting some hip rotation.
Now, I'm going to pause it. +3.
Yeah, so she's swinging everybody it in to out. Hitting
so for those of you on TrackMan.
Little beautiful baby draws, which everyone wants to do.
So inside out path.
Yeah.
And then the face is closed relative to the path. Got it. Okay. Right.
Yeah. And gets the ball up in the air really well. But I would say the biggest thing that I found with instruction, and this is really elite players, this is your middle players, and this is beginners, we can only take like one or two things at a time. And I've found that a lot of what I end up saying is like, I need you to do this first. And if you're going to go practice it, this is what's next, because I don't want to just give you this in 1 hour and then you're at the range and it's like, now it's not working because you don't have the next step.
Yeah, for sure.
But fixing things piece by piece by piece.
Yeah, that's so smart to do the prioritization. I mean, there's not a lot that I took from the research classes in school, but there was one that they did a research study, and it was looking at. I obviously came from I was a trainer and then a physical therapist, but the physical therapy world, it was like, how many at-home exercises can you give somebody and they'll be successful? And it basically was like 3 definitely. You get above 5, they probably aren't retaining anything. And so that, I always thought, all right, 3 things at most. Even when we have like our leadership meetings, everybody leaves on Monday with 3 things for the week. That's it.
And you want to give them a 4th, or you want to give them a 5th, and
it's so
like,
hard. Isn't that so hard as an instructor? Where you're like,
is.
You see the next 10 things, and you're like, okay, just 1, and here's 2 if you get good.
And I will say though, like you can hold your students more accountable for it. Like, I had a guy yesterday who, the first time I saw him, he takes the club really far outside right at the beginning, and I was like, I need you to change that. Like, that's it. Don't worry about anything else. And he came back to me 2 weeks later, and that's still not fixed. And I'm like, that's all I gave you. Like, I didn't give you anything else.
Did you practice, sir?
Yeah, I did. But then it started getting uncomfortable. And it's like, that's golf.
If it's uncomfortable, that means we're changing something.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So now, I guess, how have you then, so they come in, you're meeting with them. At what point do you do an assessment on them physically? At what point, like, how do you determine, this is always an interesting question for me, of like, I was trying to think, like, if I was a teacher on the range, at what point do I just say, all right, we're just going to work around it?
Yeah.
Versus I say, we need to go fix that. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So I would say, even before I start with the grip in the golf club, it's all about, have you ever played golf? Any injuries? What kind of injuries? Any surgeries? And obviously get that whole background. And then I like to get a feel for people's lifestyles, because the truth is, I teach a lot of people, and I think a lot of instructors teach a lot of people that don't have a lot of time to practice. And so if I have a student that's going and hitting 1,000 golf balls a day versus someone who plays 230 rounds a year and never practices, I have to tailor things specifically to that. So I would say there is a lot of working around things, but they're aware. Like, it's not like I hide anything, I don't Band-Aid anything. Like, if there's something that's going to be hard to fix, we're going to fix it because we have to. However, if you're going to Pebble Beach next week to go on a guy's trip, maybe we wait a week.
We don't,
let's just work on the short game. We don't need to break it all apart.
That's so nice.
I try.
So for the golfer, you mentioned 2 different golfers there. You have one guy who's playing 230 times and another guy who's hitting thousands of balls. Are there times where, like, 1,000-ball guy needs to go play more and guy who plays a lot needs to hit more balls? Like, how do you breach that kind of conversation?
So I would say one of the reasons I got good at golf quickly is, first, I listened to one coach, and my coach actually said that to me, because at first I was listening to every teammate and whatever they could tell me.
Now you got YouTube, you got Instagram, you got literally everything.
Can take everything. So I was listening to everybody, and I remember my coach was like, if we're going to make this work, you're going to listen to me. And I was like, okay, which I respected. And I did. But I would say what ends up happening is, you end up realizing, like, okay, what's the end goal? And you start to have that in mind. But I'm sorry, remind me of the question again.
The guy who's hitting 1,000 balls versus the guy who's hitting,
when he should go play.
When do you?
So the reason I got good at golf quickly was because I played a lot. And I remember being like, I can stripe it on the range, but it doesn't translate out there. So then I started playing.
Familiar for all of you listening.
A lot of solo golf. Go play solo golf. And I remember getting into the golf business. Everyone's like, you have to have a friend to play golf. And I was like, I don't want anyone to play golf with me. I want to go by myself. But I would say, whether you're the 1,000-ball ranger or you're I play a ton of golf, you need to have a process with whatever you're doing. And process is everything. And yes, pre-shot routine, rehearsals. It doesn't need to be 25 to 30 seconds long, but rehearse what you're trying to do, including, like, simulate the range into a playing environment. Because maybe you're at a course where we're busy until 3:30, 4 o'clock at night, and maybe you have dinner and you can't get out and play all the time. But don't stand there and rake balls and hit them, but step behind the ball, see the ball flight, go address it like you're actually hitting a shot. Try to work the golf ball the way that you're trying to. But my biggest advice, whether you're hitting 1,000 balls, you need to get out on the golf course more,
100%.
period.
Yeah.
Because that's like, essentially, aren't we trying to play better golf?
I think with your sporting background, it's fine. Like in any other sport,
Yeah.
like that's fine. Like hearing your story and then coming to golf. So I played basketball.
Mhm.
I didn't pick up golf till after college. And it was the same thing. It was everyone was like banging balls, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like they're just shooting free throws and wondering why they suck when they play 5 on
Yes.
5.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that, yeah, I would
There's a
imagine you
lot
had a similar
more.
response to that, right?
Yeah. And I remember it's just like, I mean, how do you know how good your driver is until you've got bunkers on the left and right?
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah,
So
with the tee set up here, or
yeah,
exactly.
like you need to. That's like my biggest model is it's more than a golf swing. That's kind of my philosophy. It's how we eat. It's how we train. It's sleeping.
Yeah.
It's all of that. And I know like it's funny because I always say like we're talking about golf. You know,
Yeah.
like a lot of the people I teach are doing a lot bigger things than playing good golf with their friends.
Yeah.
But they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Like they want to play better golf. So there's more to the golf swing than where's the club as you take the ball back. Is it too far inside? If it is, hit a draw.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Like we can work around things.
Exactly.
It doesn't, there's not one size fits all in this
100%.
game.
So I'd love to pivot to, you just spent a good amount of time
Yeah.
on plates in the gym. Like,
Yes.
like what did you do?
Yeah.
Take me through kind of what happened. What'd you find? What'd you learn?
Yeah. So we did some jump testing, which was cool.
Yeah.
That was my success. I'm in the top 100 percentile of the
Nice.
jumping.
On both the counter movement
Yes.
and the static.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So for those of you guys who don't know, when we test people, we look at counter movement jump, which is basically you start standing, you can dip down and jump up, and that's looking at how elastic somebody is. The other one is we have so Sarah had her hands on her hips. She sat down kind of in a squat, hold for 3 to 5 seconds without dipping, just go straight up. And so that looks at how much force can somebody create without elasticity, and how much do they create with elasticity.
Yeah.
And were you similar in both? What
I believe I was similar in both.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's interesting because you have a lot of the kids that come in are very elastic. So they jump like, I don't know, we measure it in force output in watts, but let's say we use inches because that makes more sense for people. You know, they'll jump like 20 inches when they can dip and jump with elasticity, and then they'll jump like 10 inches.
Yeah.
I'm being extreme here, but
right,
because they have like no strength, right? So think
you're not generating
exactly.
anything.
So if you're thinking professional golfers, think Akshay Bhatia, Will Zalatoris, like super skinny guys, like not a lot of bulk.
Yeah.
And then you get to the older demo, like your 50 plus, and their static is actually higher than their elasticity. They actually, if they use elasticity, they get worse.
Interesting.
Which is wild.
Interesting. That's really wild.
So as we get older, they will typically rely more on their actual strength and less on the elasticity. And that's a normal thing that we see with aging.
Yeah.
But there's what's called an elastic utilization ratio, which you sound like did pretty good at.
Yeah.
Which is we want to see you should be able to jump a little bit higher with elasticity, but it shouldn't be like orders of magnitude higher or lower, one or the other.
Yeah. But I would say like kind of even just to back up a little bit of like why I'm here is, so I have a fitness background and when I worked in the gym, I ran programs. I didn't write programs. So I was to the point where like I was getting really bored with what I was doing. And I said to Will, is like, I feel like I'm the weakest that I've ever been. And I'm not weak, but like I'm not as strong as I was when I was Olympic lifting. And it's not like I need to be there, but somewhere in between. And I basically wanted to tailor everything that I'm doing towards golf.
For sure.
Because I want to swing it a little bit faster. And I was dealing with hip pain in my left side, which is my lead side. And between demonstrating golf swings all day and playing a lot of golf, it was progressively getting worse. And to the point where I was like, it's not going to get better unless I go get help. So we went through a screen, measured hip rotation, shoulder rotation, some similar stuff with TPI, but then some stuff that's a little bit further, threw a couple balls, which I was actually pretty good at too.
Nice. The Ollie lifting history, I'm sure helped you.
Exactly. But I still felt like I could throw those things further.
And how did you do? So when we do the med ball throws, we do a light ball, a medium ball, and a heavy ball. The reason we do that is looking at the force velocity continuum and seeing if somebody's better we have one long drive guy who throws the light ball as far as he throws the heavy ball.
Interesting.
So he's really good with light.
Mm-hmm.
Really good with heavy, really bad with light.
Interesting.
So a lot of the training will be more light stuff, moving fast, versus if you have somebody who like, you know, launches the light one,
yeah,
but then like the heavy one like just falls in front of their toes. They're going to be somebody who's more heavier side of things, so more strength, speed.
So would maybe the guy that throws the heavy stuff, is he more of like really strong but not a whole lot of fast twitch type stuff?
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So we have a golfer right now. He's over at Carolina since he was 16. Tree trunks for legs, super strong lower body. When you looked at his jumps, he was the first 16-year-old I've ever seen who actually was lower on the elastic side. So for him, a lot of his training at 16 was like plyometrics, try to optimize there, because he was like as strong as he needed to be lower body by the time he was 18.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, dude, we can just maintain for the next 50 years. But let's try to get more bouncy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, that will inform you like where somebody's speed can come from.
Interesting.
I'm curious on the jump side. We're talking about how elastic somebody is. Do you see that when you're teaching, that some people seem to create more speed from like just pure strength versus other people are more like, how does that tend to show up?
I would say, well, first thing, people carry a lot of tension in their arms and their grip pressure.
Yeah.
And that kills speed in terms of like, and I understand you need a certain amount of strength in order to swing the club fast, but when you're death gripping the golf club, it's not going to swing fast. So I would say people try to muscle the golf ball. And so it's almost like, yeah, I see these wicked strong people come in and all I'm saying is like, come on, like let these go. But then, I mean, I have some 75-year-old women that I teach that maybe don't weigh more than 90 pounds. And that's where I'm like, might not swing at more than 47.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I wish I could be like, you should start working out, you know? And I do, but people, you know, they do their things.
Yeah.
They're retired. Yes. They enjoy their lives.
They do all the other things.
Exactly. Yes.
So, all right. So we got, got through the jumps, got through the power testing, hip assessments. What did we find on the left hip?
So my left hip is limited internally. And actually, Will was like, you don't have any back problems, do you? Which just on my drive up and in the last couple days, it's like, I feel like my back is weak.
It's wizard. He's wizardly.
Like, it's just like, it's not strong. And so he was like, honestly, it could have happened next week, could have happened in a year, but you're lucky you're here and we're going to fix this.
Yeah, that's the number one predictor of low back pain is the lead hip internal rotation being limited. So internal rotation, for everyone listening, is your ability to rotate into your lead leg through impact. So you get to your follow through. So the position that Sara demonstrates hundreds of times a day.
And my right side's fine. It's actually like over mobile.
Yeah.
And the left side was just like hit a wall.
Locked in, yeah. And what did he get into the muscles of which ones were locked up and the poke on you? And all that stuff?
The
TFL, psoas, iliacus.
The psoas, the iliacus is really a fun place to explore. That's really
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's all of that is tight.
All the things.
All of those. Yeah.
The 75-year-old has all their things. You have all your things.
I have mine too. Yeah. Well, I was saying to Will, I was almost like, do I have a kidney stone? Like it was starting to hurt so bad. He's like, you'd know if you had a kidney stone. It's just your iliacus is tight. I was like,
well, I think that's an important piece to bring out for people is like the tissue can get so locked up and the trigger points can get so intense that it's all a nervous system response, but it can feel terrible.
Yeah.
And we get so many people that how was your glute meds and all those?
They need to be stronger.
Okay. Were they super sensitive to tissue work too, or was iliacus like the worst?
They all were super.
All were pretty sucky. Okay. Yeah, and they can all refer down the leg. I think there's actually a lot of people who will say, I got the sciatica.
Yes.
Like, first of all, there's no "the" in front. But the first is always like, well, how far down does the pain go?
Yeah.
Is it into your foot and is it shooting and burning? And if the answers are no, it's like, oh, it's in my calf. It's in my hamstring.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's actually a trigger point in a muscle. And, if it's going past the ankle, there's the tissue, trigger points don't refer that far down.
Okay.
But that's what a lot of people are like, I got the sciatica, and they're like, it's on the left, on my one side. And we just had an accelerator here. We had like 15 people flying from around the country. We did a 3-day event, and every single one of them was like, to me, this is like the single most important message for anybody who's dealing with back pain as a golfer is like, if it's one-sided, it's usually the glute med or like the like being able to tell people, like, it sounds like you got the education today, like, hey, hit these spots and then that should be fine. And when you can give people that gift of like, hey, this is how to take care of it's almost like how to take care of your car. Right. It's like
true.
how to take care of your body. And people are like, oh, all right, so I feel that, just do that. And you're like, yeah. And you're like, and then I'm good. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And then they're good.
And the interesting thing is though, is like, I'm mobile, like I'm flexible, and this stuff is still happening on me. So any golf professional, you need this. And any golfer, you need this. But really, I mean, golf pro life can be tough. You know, you're working all day.
Can be.
It's tough.
It's a grind. We can be honest.
It's a grind.
You guys have one of the hardest jobs, I think, out there.
You're on your feet sun up to sunset. You're carrying things. You're lifting things awkwardly, like, and you're not really taking care of yourself. So do this stuff for yourself. Like, this was the coolest thing, like hopping in my car and being like, I'm going and actually, yes, I want to share this with all my students, but this is something that I know that I need. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Awesome. So you're heading back today. What's the action plan?
So now, well, I go to the gym. It's not like I don't work out. I go 4 or 5 days a week, but basically Will's going to give me a program that I'm going to follow. And a lot of what we discussed is he's like, you check a lot of the boxes minus my hip and shoulder rotation's a little tight, but I just need to be stronger. And he's like, you just need to bump up your weights and everything that you're doing, basically. And so now I don't want to say it's like the clearance and the permission to do that, but as a golfer,
there's a plan.
There's a plan. And I mean, that's kind of also why I'm here is I go to the gym 5 days a week, and 1 to 2 of those days, it's like, you know, you don't quite have it. And you just go walk on an inclined treadmill and that's it. And then you leave and you don't feel great about it because you just woke up at, for me, 5 a.m. to come here and walk on an inclined treadmill.
I literally had that day yesterday. I woke up 5 a.m. All right, bench and dead today. I got in, I was like, treadmill.
Yep, I know. And then you're like, maybe in a little bit.
I'm like, well, I'll just do. I'm like, I put it up like 8. We're just gonna go 5% incline today.
Hold it.
Then I went in today and I was like, all right, gotta do it.
I know, you gotta do it. But I'm good if I have something to hold me accountable. And maybe some people aren't, but that's like, if I have a plan. And when I was lifting in college, we had sheets that we would write all our weights in, and so it push you. And I just didn't have that. And we can go through my notes in my phone and see all of the little like circuits that I find on Instagram, and I plug in and I'm like, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then I get there and I'm like, do I really need to do this? Like, no one told me to do this.
I think that's the coolest thing too. Like, obviously for you coming here, we get the entire database experience, but you get to see, like, you know, particularly if you were in the 100th percentile on the jump side for women your age, and you're like, well, what's your club speed?
On average, 88.
Oh, wow.
See, that's what Will was saying.
So if you're 100th percentile for vertical, like, then physically from a lower body power standpoint, like, you're explosive. You should be in the like triple digits.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said if he hadn't seen anything, he'd be like 100.
Yeah, exactly.
He said your cruising speed should be like 94.
Easy tour average or higher.
Yeah.
And but then I think this is an important note for any of the women listening. Typically we see in our LPGA girls is they are very, very flexible, and their injury risk is their strength or lack thereof. And they will feel tight or get tightness like what you're experiencing because it's the body's attempt to stabilize. So think of it, the more motion you have, the more strength you have to have.
Yeah.
Like, right. So if I get less motion, I need less strength. So your body naturally will actually try to decrease the motion to match your strength. And so what we saw, it was a really cool thing we did. We had 10 girls all swinging over 100, and they all had back pain.
Really?
And so we did a thing with them. It's probably 3 years ago. We ran them through a program in the off season where it was solely to get their deadlifts up to 200 pounds total.
Okay.
And once we got their deadlifts up, then those that were at 200 or higher, and it was 1.7 times their body weight or more, no longer had back pain.
Really?
And there was one girl she was like 6'2". She had to get to like 230 or 250. She was
Mm-hmm.
just a heavier, but as soon
Yeah.
as she got to 175, backpack on. And so
Oh my gosh.
it's this really cool thing that we've seen where it's not how much. I mean, to generate 100 miles an hour club head speed, like you got to be able to move load.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
deadlifting 200 is like that's just an absolute number. But it really the pain came down. So that think of like 200 was like the amount of force you need to be able to produce to move 100 miles an
Yeah.
hour.
Right.
But to do it safely,
Mm-hmm.
it was really body weight relativity.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a cool message for any of you listening right now. That particularly on the women's side,
Mm-hmm.
that strength is honestly the number one killer of careers.
Yeah.
For women. On the men's side, y'all suck at mobility. A lot of you suck at strength too. You guys, unfortunately, guys, we kind of suck at both. But
yeah.
But it's cool because you can look and see. I think this is one of my coolest graphs that we do. Is you'll see, hey, where's your percentile vertical, like lower body, right? So for you, it's at 100, and then you say, where's your club speed percentile, and it's like 60.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
Okay, then you're like, all right, where's your mobility? And like, okay, my hip's not good, my shoulder. All right, so now all of a sudden, you have highlighted for you.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do shoulder, I got to do hip,
mm-hmm.
and the way we look at our philosophy is it's kind of like I always joke the old food pyramid
Mm-hmm.
that
mm-hmm.
ended up being total BS.
Yeah.
I can't. Can we cut? I always ask you this.
You're the C.
All right. I just don't know if we have the explicit rating or not. It's total bullshit, right? So, but like, where it's bread at the bottom. So, so I joke that we stole it since it's invalid and we made our own now. Where we think of like the bottom is mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the foundation of mobility, anything you build on top of that is potentially problematic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's like for you, it's like, hey, get my shoulder, get my hip clean. Great. No, just maintain.
Mm-hmm.
The next level is the strength side. It's like, okay, hey, where are we at that? And so it's like, sounds like we got to do a little bit of work there.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like power numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So you're clearly, from a power standpoint, your verticals, you're probably going to set a new 100th percentile as your strength gets higher because you already have elasticity.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the years of volleyball probably helped that.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden it becomes really clear where do you focus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's say mobility's clean. Like say you come back 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Mobility's clean. Your strength numbers are like trending up.
Yeah.
Your upper body, like power numbers are good. And let's say you're still swinging 88.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing you're a golf pro because that's who we would then talk to next. Right. But that's where then we go to that top of the pyramid is we call it the core forfeit from an efficiency standpoint. And we look at it, we say it's not instruction, it's efficiency where we say, hey, are the hips moving first?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an X factor element, like an X factor stretch occurring? Or first, I guess, is their weight shift. Second is the hips first. Third is there an X factor stretch, and then fourth is their speed out front. Or we kind of chicken wing, right? And if those elements are not occurring, then it's like, okay, this is like physically the engine is built.
Yeah.
But technically, we don't know how to get it out.
Yeah.
That's why I joke that there's a gorilla locked in a cage, and we just got to get it out.
It's true.
And that's to me, that's where it's like for everyone listening, like getting with somebody like Sara, like yourself, who can then say, like take the car and then teach you how to drive it
exactly
is magical for people.
Yeah. Well, and also I think too, and golf is hard and working out is hard. I wouldn't say that. And I was under this like understanding that I needed to love the gym. And I did,
I'm still looking for the first golfer who loves the gym.
I know. But then now it's like, no, it's okay if we accept that, like, we don't really like it, but we know that we have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, whether it's swing
like
or it's this, well, like, don't be afraid to be told where you're not good at things because, like, I'm functioning. And yeah, I mean, I hit 12 out of 14 fairways probably on average, but I swing at 87.
Yeah.
And I hit it 230 up the middle when I could hit it 250 up the middle just by getting stronger. So I think that in general, whether it's golf, whether it's fitness, whatever it is, whether it's life, we all need to just be more open to learning areas that maybe we're not great at and then making them better. Instead of like, I was talking to a guy when I got here who had a broken shoulder for a year and he didn't go get it looked at. And then he went and got it looked at and it was broken for a year. But it's like same kind of with me. I mean, this hip thing's been going on for probably like 6 months and it popped up in my knee to the point I was like, I hope I didn't tear anything in my knee. But I feel like we wait too long where it's like, if you just go address it now, like, yeah, maybe I wish I came up here and it was like, oh, you got some stuff wrong. I'm thrilled that it's just like, you just need to go lift heavier weights and fix your hip.
Yeah. Well, I think I always like the mental framework. What's the upside? What's the downside? And then if I assume that the downside is going to happen, am I okay with that?
Yeah.
I think if people operated with that, right? And you're like, we'll use you for example. So if I go up, what's the upside of going up? Well, I figure out why my hip's bugging me.
Yeah.
I can swing it faster, like all the good things, right?
Yeah.
But what's the downside if if I don't go? Well, this just continues.
Yeah.
It goes into my back. My knee's screwed up. Well, now I can't demo anything. Well, now I can't do what I need to do for my job.
Yeah.
Golf sucks. I don't want to play. I hurt. Like, okay, cool. So let's assume that happens. You good?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then
right,
do something.
Yeah, like I don't want to have to. I was saying to Will, like I'm so happy I came in, because if I would have hurt my back, like you said, okay, now maybe I need surgery or I can't swing.
Yeah.
Sarah Davis is not happy.
We don't want that.
Not at all.
Well, I think it's just, and I think it speaks to the way that the body works, is where your where your pain is not really where your problem is.
Right.
And it's so, like, what you're describing is so stereotypical and so normal.
Yes.
It's like my hip's bugging me. Oh, whatever. My knee. Oh gosh, I should do something. Well, it's not, your knee doesn't have a problem. Or my back, or it coming from the joint above or below. And that's just so common. But yeah, I joked that when I started the business, I was like, help golfers, their fitness. I'm about like 2 years in. I'm like, golfers hate fitness. Like this, I run a fitness business for people who hate fitness.
Yeah.
And that's where it became really quick, really clear. Where for me, like, you mentioned the difference between like what we did with you assessment, like the TPI full assessment level 1 is like 16 different ones. And it was, so we've always looked at like, okay, how do we get like 80%, 90% of the info and do with like 20% of the tests?
Yeah.
And that's where we have used the stats to come down to, all right, let's just do
like what's
shoulder,
important.
hips, like what's gonna move the needle the most. And if we need to get into wrist mobility and all that, like, sure, we will.
Right.
But like, you're gonna, if we go back to what we talked about in the beginning, leave with 3 things.
Yeah.
1 thing, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Right. By just doing 4 like looking at 4 joint, like we found half of them had a problem.
Yeah.
And that's our 1, 2 things.
Yeah.
Don't need to go any further.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We're
all right,
good.
go do your homework. We'll come back. We'll retest and we'll see where we're at.
Exactly.
So, so I want to be respectful of time. I know you should be driving home right now, and
It's okay.
I totally
That's okay.
jacked that for you.
He's totally.
But where can people find more? Like, follow you, check out what you're doing. Obviously, you should go to Kiwa.
You should.
Awesome.
It's wonderful. Instagram. I am big on my Instagram. Are you guys gonna put?
We'll put everything in the show notes.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. But
yeah. So Instagram. I'm big. Instagram's kind of like my main platform right now. My Twitter hasn't been used in a while, so you don't have to look there. But Instagram is good. I communicate, I'd say, with everybody through that.
Awesome.
And
Sweet.
pretty much find me on Instagram.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we will put their handle, everything in there in the show notes for you guys, so you can find that. And
I think we can make it too. Like, what I also want to do with this is like document my journey with you guys.
Yes.
Of like, okay, here I am. My hip's not great. I'm not strong. I'm not
Let's be honest, you're probably stronger than the average bear.
Well, I told one of my friends, I'm like, I'm going to get a fitness test. And he's like, what, to get stronger? You need to get stronger? I'm like, if you knew how strong I was, yes, you would agree with me. But it'll be cool to be like, okay, all of a sudden now I'm lifting heavier. Maybe my club head speed sneaks up. And any of my students that watch this that ask me about club head speed, we need to get stronger.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the cool thing. And for now, it may be strength.
Yeah.
And definitely there's a mobility component to it
as
well.
Yeah.
But then it may be in 8 weeks, it may be, hey, it's, sequence or, some, and I think that's the cool thing for everybody listening. The journey is like for life. Like, and it changes. It's so funny whenever we have people that are like, most people on average, the first 10 weeks, they're up like 10 yards, about 3 miles an hour. After the first year, they're up 5 to 7 miles an hour. So they're up like 20 yards.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I'm good. And you're like, no,
what?
But dude, like, how many more years are you gonna keep playing?
Yeah.
You're like, until I'm like 90. I'm like,
yeah.
Great, that's 30 years from now. You don't think anything bad is gonna happen in the next 30 years,
right? You
don't think your body's gonna change? And they're like, oh no, I know what to do. I just did it for last year. And I'm like, yeah, but your body today is different than your body was. The program that you need to do now is different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the program actually becomes easier.
Yeah.
Because there's not as much stuff to fix. Maintaining is easier than gaining. And it's just, to your point, it's a process. It's a journey, and things are gonna. What you're leaving with today will not be what you leave with the next time.
I know.
So,
which is cool.
Yeah. So, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. I can't thank you enough. It's been awesome having you on.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening, thanks as always for hanging out with us here on the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. And we'll catch you on the next episode.